Well, hey y'all, welcome back to North American Welding and Fabrication. This is day 2 and episode 6 of building a welding truck. Starting this episode out, I just figure I just need to adjust the clutch and turn the truck around, but can't get the truck to run long enough to actually turn around, so I end up having to trace down the problem with a fire sprinkler or distributor, whichever one you want to call it. Derek on Vice Grip calls it a lightning whirler. That's pretty good. But anyways, I end up having to chase that down, which leads me to the alternator. So if you have any kind of alternator problems on an old Ford and you want to learn how to diagnose it kind of and maybe fix it, stick around. Here you go. Well, it's the next morning, and even though it was a beautiful day yesterday that was quite windy, they're calling for rain today. Lots and lots and lots and lots of rain. So before I start getting drowned, I got to get up under here, adjust the clutch, and move this truck. I'm gonna nose it into the carport over there in my wife's parking spot, because I gotta put the turn signal switch in it. And yeah, let's go with that. All right, up under the truck here, trying to show y'all this clutch adjustment rod that I got going here. That's actually a piece of all thread that I came up with and designed on myself. So I got to loosen up that nut, and then I can turn that rod and make it longer so that I can actually compress the pressure plate. So that's what I'm doing right now, and yeah, here we go. I'm gonna be right up in that area. Sure, dummy, get up under here with the wrong size wrenches. That was smart. How? Okay. Now, take my Nip-X. If you're not running Nip-X pliers, I'm not going to judge you, but I gotta wonder why you're not, because these things work like a really quick pipe wrench. The tighter you push on them, the tighter they grab. But I'm gonna take the Nip-X and get up in there where I can turn that rod. I gotta tighten them up a hole. I got a real nice dirt buffet in my right eyeball, but oh well. Now I just keep on running the threads out. Basically what I had going on is my clutch pedal had entirely too much free travel for what I need. So I got to take some free travel out of it. That way it compresses the clutch diaphragm on the pressure plate the way that it should, and I can actually have the clutch disengage instead of continuously trying to pull my truck. You don't want to adjust it up so tight that the throwout bearing rides on the pressure plate. You want a little bit of room there, but not a whole lot. And we have reached the end of my adjustment rod's length. So I'm just going to go on ahead and run the jam nut down and hope that it's long enough. If it's not, I'll have to make another adjustment rod. Chances are it's too short. Let me go get this trash out of my right eyeball, and then I'll come back and see if I did any good. And we're back. Mash the gas to the floorboard one time to set the electric choke. Wiggle the gear lever 14,000 times, make sure she's in neutral. And here we go. apparently irritated the distributor. But the clutch pedal works, so now we can find a clamp for the lower radiator hose, and I'll figure that distributor thing out later. Yes, I do need to make a longer adjustment rod for the clutch, but it will actually disengage, and that's what I need it to do so that I can get the front end of this thing in there in the dry. I'll figure that distributor out later. Just filling up the radiator with some water so that I can actually run this thing longer than 5 seconds at a time without cooking the head gaskets right out of this engine. So, yeah. I found a clamp for the lower radiator hose, and now the radiator's full. The good thing about these old engines like this is if they're in their original location, or relatively original anyways, they don't generally trap air pockets in weird places and make you have to open bleeders and find leaks and stuff like that. And generally you fill it up with water, run it till the thermostat opens, fill it the rest of the way up, and then you're good. You know, water, coolant, same thing. Well, I couldn't get it to run correctly long enough to build up any heat in the engine to get the thermostat open. So I had to figure out what was going on with the distributor, and what I figured out is that little wire that my power probe is hooked to is supposed to be getting a constant battery voltage in order for that distributor to work correctly, and it's not. For one thing, my battery was a little bit low on voltage, but for another, I believe there is some sort of resistance in that wire, and it's really kind of confusing me because it worked just fine before, but now I've got to throw 12 volts directly from the battery through the power probe to that wire. So I'm probably going to end up having to wire in a relay to make it work correctly. But anyways, it should sit here and idle, build up heat, and then the thermostat will open and I can fill the radiator the rest of the way up with water. Then I can move this thing and get to the rest of my rat killing. Alright, got it where it'll fire up and run and somewhat act correctly, but the problem is the charge from the alternator is not reaching the battery, and I don't understand that because I cleaned them connections and tightened them yesterday. So chances are that alternator is either not putting out a charge, or that voltage regulator has decided it's done, and that's really weird, because for that voltage regulator to be done, that would mean that somehow transferring it from another truck, or disconnecting it from its original location point on the original front end of this truck and relocating it to its new location point on the front end of this truck, somehow destroyed it. Don't make any sense. But anyways, I got some investigations to conduct, and I'm going to conduct them. Alright, so that's a little weird. I just fired the engine up and probed the backside of the alternator and hooked into the charge wire coming from the alternator. Probed the backside of the alternator on the charge wire also, make sure it wasn't a loose connection there. Alternator ain't putting out a charge, which is really weird. Makes no sense. It was charging yesterday, but maybe disconnecting it from the truck and moving it around, and the fact that it's 46 years old, maybe that made it quit charging. Either way, I've got another alternator around here somewhere, so I'm gonna stick an alternator on it and see if that fixes the problem. Okay, so I went and grabbed another junk alternator out of the back, and I went on ahead and loosened the adjustment bolt. I'm gonna loosen that big 5/8 head bolt right there, which would be a 7/16 bolt in reality, and get this alternator off and try this other one. Anybody ever notice shortcuts are never really shortcuts? Yeah, you should disconnect the battery before doing this also. And just let the bolt or the belt just hang down there. And let me go on ahead and disconnect this battery. Battery is what y'all are hugging to be able to see what I'm doing here. Alright, battery is disconnectified. I know somebody's thinking, why don't you just put a one-wire GM on it? Why would I bother deleting the things necessary to delete and put a one-wire GM on here when the Ford system is obviously a pretty good one, considering the fact that this is all from 1977 and this is 2023 and it still works where it was still working. Plus, that alternator is a whole lot cheaper than a one-wire GM, in case you didn't know, because one-wire GM has a voltage regulator built into the alternator, so it costs more. This system, you only change the part that's bad instead of changing everything. That all being said, I really hope that other alternator is a good one. If it's not, then I'll probably be taking one of or both of these alternators up the road to this old fella and getting him to rebuild them and make them good. I don't do buying aftermarket and new and all that. It just ain't right. You rebuild the original and you end up with a better part than what you can go to Idiot Zone and buy. And y'all can't see anything I got going on up there, can you? Let me go on ahead and put that in a precarious situation. I disconnected that wire and that wire. Now I got to loosen this bolt or the nut and disconnect that wire. And yeah, that's all to pieces, so that's fine. Should be a 7/16. Well, the whole daggum stud's turning. Pretty clear indication something ain't right. Got that broke loose. Oh, that's another thing. The fact that that nut took a 7/16 is another indicator that that alternator is probably the original and probably has never been changed. New alternators, that nut will be a 10 millimeter. Now I take this other 46-year-old alternator and hook everything up to it. Yes, this alternator came off the same truck this front clip came off of. So, that being said, I know nothing about this alternator, because the critter who used to own that truck, at best, was a hack. He was also a lying, thieving turd, but that's all beside the point. Now I'm sticking the alternator back down in here where it goes. I almost said where it came from, but this alternator ain't never been on this truck. Luckily, it's pretty quick and simple and decently easy to swap these alternators. I think I got 4 or 5 more back here. So I'll go through my pile of alternators until I find one that works, and if I don't find one that works, I'll go get one rebuilt. It's the same thing as going to the parts house and buying a reman, except it's not being remanned by some little Chinese kid in a sweatshop that has no idea what he's doing. Y'all do know that's where reman parts come from, right? They come from China, just like that coronavirus that everybody was scared of. And yeah, unlike the Chinese virus, the Chinese parts don't live very long. Alright, I need vice grips, because easiest way I've found to tighten the alternator belt is hook vice grips right there and pull the alternator up. Otherwise, you're sticking a pry bar in here and you run the risk of damaging the casing of the alternator and all that good stuff. You don't want to do that. Derek on Vice Grip Garage don't say these are the greatest tools known to man for no reason. There's that. Going ahead and tighten that 5/8. And now I'll hook the battery back up and then hook the power probe back up. And I hope that the battery has enough juice left in it to fire the truck up so that we can test this alternator. Well, it's got enough juice to activate the power probe, so let's just go on ahead and cut the speaker off on that. And now we're going to not be focused on a ground clamp. There's a little shiny spot right there. That's the top of the nut for the charge wire. That's where I'll be probing to see if we're getting any extra voltage over what's in the battery. What's in the battery right now is 12.4 volts, so it should start the truck. That is really weird. She ain't charging at all, and she's surging at idle, so the distributor is not getting the proper amount of juice, and that's because the battery voltage is low. And yeah, I got to go back through all these connections and make sure that all these connections are connectified. Alright, so I got curious, and if my memory is correct, which is one big if, one of the smaller wires should go hot when you turn the key on, and the other of these smaller wires should only be hot when the engine is running and the alternator is turning. And then the big wire is going to have battery voltage no matter what. Well, I'm not getting any juice to the wire that's supposed to be hot when you turn the key on, and again, that's if my memory is correct. So I got to figure out why I'm not getting any juice to the alternator. It could be a fusible link. It could be a bad connection on one of these butt connectors that somebody wired in who knows how long ago. That all remains to be seen. So now I get to track that down. Another thing, if it's tied into that ignition module over there, that could be the entire issue also. That ignition module hadn't gooped all over the inside of the fender like the original, or the old, like they do when they die. but that don't mean that that ignition module is good. That's the only electrical component that came on this front clip that I'm trying to reuse. So I'm gonna snatch that off and then put my other ignition module that I already had on this truck over there and see if I start getting a charge out of an alternator, or at least a change in voltage over here, which is, any voltage is better than no voltage. So I'm gonna do that right quick. Well, after a whole bunch of fiddling around, I figured out that that wire is actually supposed to be hot when the key is on. So just for the sake of checking to see if this alternator is actually going to put out a charge, I went on ahead and hooked the power probe up and I rocked the switch to give it juice, and it's giving it juice. So I'm not sure why it wasn't giving it juice, but another problem I'm seeing is we're over 15 volts right now. We're not supposed to be over 15 volts. So the voltage regulator is not doing its job. I gotta see if that voltage regulator is just not grounded properly, or what's going on there, but 15.5 volts on a system this old is not good. Well, I don't know if I found the problem, but I certainly found a problem. Somehow or another, in all the moving things around and flipping stuff over and all that good stuff, that little connector found a way to get broke. So could that be my entire issue? I don't know. Does it need to be fixed? Yeah. So I'm going to come up with a way to fix it. Alright, so here's my plan. I'm going to remove what's left of the connector from the inside of that hole there, and probably send a drill bit through there, and then I'll put one of these little blue flat spade connectors in because it secures nice and tight to the post. Then I'll just run these two pieces of wire on up through there tied to that connector and connect them, then push the rest of the plug over everything. And yeah, it's not rocket surgery, it's just got to be connected. Alright, now I just gotta release the latch and push what's left of that back out of there. Oh, that's nice, it crumbled. All kinds of pieces coming out. Look at that. Now I gotta very, very carefully send a drill bit through there without destroying my fingers, and go from there.
Pop quiz. What's the number one cause of a hearing loss in a mechanic shop? Well, as of 2007, 8, or 9, whatever year it was, statistically, it was a leaking air hose. Kind of hard to believe, ain't it? It's also pretty hard to believe that I spent money on these fancy spade clip connectors just so I could cut all the protection off of it so it would fit in a hole. Got to make the hole bigger. See if I can grab it with the needle nose of these Leathermans and just pull it on through. Nope, can't get it. But the flathead is showing promise of being able to push it through. Alright, now it's through there. So now, we just hook this bad boy up to its proper place. Right like that. And then we can connect the rest of the plug back where it goes. Now we can bolt this son of a gun back in and see if it made any difference at all. Probably not. junk battery cable ends. Now let's see what happens. Well, that was the entire problem the entire time. I chased my tail all around the hood of this truck over one bad connection right there. Now let's fire this thing up and see if it has a regulation on the amount of charge that's going to the battery. Holding it down like that shows you the battery voltage. Getting a call. Well, I've had her sitting here running through my entire tool picking up party, so yeah, I believe I fixed the problem. She's still charging and still running good, which is kind of surprising because that alternator has been out in the rain literally for about 3 years. So yeah, knock on them forward alternators some more. 46 years old, been laying out in the rain for like 3 years, and I picked it up, dusted it off, hooked it up, and it works. That all being said, there probably ain't nothing wrong with the original alternator that I pulled off of here. So when that one goes bad, I'll put the other one back on and have that one rebuilt.
And that's the end of episode 6. Gonna stop that all right there. Next episode, I'm swapping out the turn signal switch, and I'm not quite sure what all else is going to fit in the next video. The turn signal switch operation wouldn't fit in this video, or it'd be in this video. Anyways, still got like 45 minutes, 50 minutes of video here, so trying to keep it a little shorter. It seem like the hour-long videos and the ones that go up over an hour don't exactly get watched all the way through. So anyways, if you stuck around this long, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little something, and thanks for watching.